I am counting every blessing, letting go and trusting when I cannot see. I am counting every blessing, surely.
Welcome to the ND 500 podcast. Today's text comes from Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. As I sit here today, July the 14th, today is my wife and I wedding anniversary. And I remember this particular verse because this is the verse that I used when I proposed to my wife during a watch night service at Union Baptist Church in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I remember the first time that I laid eyes on my wife. I had just moved to Pascagoula, Mississippi. I was there to be a journalist for a local newspaper. And since I grew up in a church, I was searching for a church home. And one day I had visited Union Baptist Church. And while I was sitting in my seat, I became immediately fixated on this beautiful woman that was in the choir singing with the youth choir. And I remember that day that the pastor had made an announcement that they were going to have a Christmas cantata at 5 p.m. that night. And I was a person who grew up in a church, and I never liked coming back to church in the evening. But on this particular day, I came back because when I saw that beautiful woman, I immediately thought to myself, now she looks like somebody who would actually come back to church. So I came back at 5 p.m. And the only reason I went, I was looking for her. I really wasn't interested in the cantata. I wasn't interested in anything else. I was looking for this beautiful woman I saw singing in the choir. But to my surprise, she was not there. But I later found out that she had to work that night. But it kind of puzzled me that she wasn't there because I knew that she looked like somebody who would come back to church. So as the months that went by, I kept coming back to Union Baptist Church looking for an opportunity to actually introduce myself to this beautiful person that I had met. But I had never actually had an opportunity to speak to her alone. She had many friends, and I was a little too embarrassed to try to come up to her and just say something to her. And I didn't know if she was dating anybody or anything because I was actually new into the city. But one day while I was on my lunch break, I went to Walmart. I was hungry and I was looking for one of my favorite meals, hot dogs and beans. And to my surprise, she was in one of the aisles looking for something in Walmart. And like a hawk, I circled around 2 times and I made my way over to her and I introduced myself to her, and we exchanged phone numbers, and we soon after we went on our first date. But it didn't take long for me to realize that she was the one. And actually later that year, it didn't take me a whole year. It took me maybe 8 months for me to decide that I was actually going to ask her to marry me. And that watch night service, Union Baptist Church, I got down on one knee and I used that verse, the man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and felt that she was my good thing. And I asked her to marry me and she said yes. And that was the greatest day of my life. And I remember that day soon after, some of her friends asked her, girl, let me see the rock that he gave you. But it really wasn't much of a rock. It was a very small ring at that time. Before we got married, I actually had to give her another ring. But the diamond had to be a little bit bigger than the one that I got her. That's all I could afford at that time. But I knew that I didn't want to take a chance to, letting her slip away. So I asked her to marry me. And since that time, I have definitely been the beneficiary of many blessings. And I know that I have obtained favor from God simply because she is by my side. And there are several things that I know that I've benefited, just from being married to her. I know that I'm definitely more attractive when she's by my side rather than when I'm walking by myself. And I've been the beneficiary. I have 2 beautiful daughters. They've blessed me in so many ways in my life. I have a loving home. And also, now that I'm a minister, I also have her support in ministry. There are so many ministers that I know that don't have the support of their spouse. So I've been able to have opportunities in ministry simply because my wife is in support of me in ministry, and she's in support of ministry in itself. She sings in just about all the choirs at church. So she's definitely been a blessing to my life, and I wouldn't trade her for anything. And if you're someone who's listening to me today and you're considering getting married, I definitely encourage you to don't let your good thing get away, because I'm a testament to what can happen once you bring that good thing to a union. So I definitely encourage you to pray about it, definitely. But once God gives you that answer that yes, he or she is the person for you, go ahead. If you're the man, go ahead and ask her to marry you. And if you're the woman and God has told you that this is the person for you, go ahead and say yes and go on the adventure of life with one another. And I promise you that you won't regret it. God has so many blessings for you. And I believe it starts with saying yes to the one that God has ordained to be in your life.